All right, hey guys, fun show today. I'm joined by two guys, Chicagoland area guys. They're from the Forest Park neighborhood. They created like a hoax, a scam, a scheme, a prank, whatever you want to call it. It was really funny. Where they basically created a fake college to get free tickets from the NCAA for a couple of years. So if the title's a little confusing, just give the story a shot. It's a great one. It's a story that started out as a hoax, but it like created years-long friendship. So it was a great time. I appreciate those guys for coming in. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And I do want to talk about American Home Shield before we really get into it. Listen, just because you have to live with a busted tournament bracket doesn't mean you have to live with the busted appliances and home systems. Let's be honest, breakdowns are inevitable. Without a home warranty, you could pay thousands when things like your oven, AC, refrigerator, or plumbing get knocked out of the game. But American Home Shield is here with the assist. I've seen enough appliances quit on me, so I tell everyone don't sleep on AHS. It's like having a solid six-man for your house. An AHS warranty can help protect appliances and home systems no matter how old. And if you're covered, item can be repaired. If it can't be repaired, they can replace it. A home warranty provides coverage that homeowners insurance doesn't, like for breakdowns caused by normal wear and tear. So help protect your peace of mind and your wallet with a home warranty from American Home Shield. And as a benefit to select plans, you can video chat with live repair experts to help assess or even fix issues over the phone. American Home Shield, don't worry, be warranty. Get 20% off at ahs.com/dogwalk and see promo details. See ahs.com/contracts for coverage details, including service fees, limitations, and exclusions. Go check them out, guys. And let's get into the show. All right, Bimang, today is Thursday. It is March 19th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. I am joined here in studio by Danny Kelly and Pete Brown on Zoom, two members of, or two students, I should say, at McGuire University. Some people listening to the show might be familiar with the story. It's one of the greatest pranks, hoaxes, whatever you want to call it, and on the NCAA. So this happened in the 60s, and I'm excited to have you guys in and tell the story. Thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Ed.
Yeah, so where do we want to start this here, Dan? Do you want to start us, Dan?
Well, I think we'll start out with a McGuire introduction.
Absolutely.
And
we have to do it, Eddie.
So something like this. How do you do, Barstool Lady? How do you do? How do you do, Barstool Lady? How do you do? You may think you're upper class, but you're just a horse's ass. How do you do, Barstool Lady? How do you do? That was the introduction to every new person that ever came into McGuire University's hospitality suite.
Okay.
That's how they were greeted.
So, Eddie, no matter how big shot you were, Ray Meyer, Coach K, it didn't make any difference. You got the same introduction when you came into the hospitality suite.
That's awesome. I'm very excited to get into some of those stories. So, McGuire University, where did this start? How did it begin?
Well, you want to go, Pete?
No, you go, Danny.
It got started in 1963 in McGuire's bar. John McGuire owned a bar right over at Madison and Harlem, right inside Forest Park. Incidentally, it was the closest bar to Fenwick High School. And as a result of that, they had a lot of Fenwick used to hold clinics every year, the Catholic League clinics for football and basketball coaches, and they would ultimately end up over at McGuire's. So it was a good place to go to meet other high school coaches, small college coaches. Scouts would come in there to try and talk to the coaches if they were looking to recruit somebody. In 1993, when Loyola University made it to the Final Four, George Ireland had frequented McGuire's bar over the years. And anyway, a group of guys got together and decided to make the trek down to see the tournament down in Louisville. And Lenny Tiro, who was a football coach at Fenwick High School, Bill Shea, who was a basketball coach at Fenwick, were two of the founding guys of the group that went down there. Other guys, Mel Connolly was a truck driver, and his name comes up because it plays into this a little bit further. Billy Smith. There are 8 or 9 of them. Those are the ones that come to mind offhand.
Bobby Nevers.
Oh, Bobby Nevers. I can't forget Bobby because he was an integral part of it all. But anyway, after they went down there, they had a good time. Came back and told everybody, told their friends at the clinic and all this, what a good time they had. And over at McGuire's, and so they decided to go back a second year, and more guys went. Third year, more guys went, and somewhere along the line, in I think it was around 1972, they got an application to the NCAA, and to become a member school. And the coaches up to that time who had been coming in there would report back to their superiors, that they were recruiting guys over at McGuire University because they thought that sounded better than McGuire's Pub or McGuire's Bar or Saloon or whatever. So ultimately the name of the bar became McGuire University. John McGuire was the owner. He was all in line with this. He was one of the original guys also that went down to Louisville. And so they got a hold of this application, and they filled it out. The president of the university was John McGuire. Or I'm sorry, the president was the truck driver, Mel Conley was the president.
Conley,
yeah. And Lenny Tiro was the football coach. Bill Shea was the basketball coach. I don't think Nevers was the original position holder there. But anyway, George Ireland, the wife of the coach of Loyola, was the female athletic director, sports information director. And anyway, they filled it all the way down. And I'm sure you've heard this story. People who are familiar with McGuire, the story of an assistant football coach. They couldn't remember his last name. His first name was Sal. Actually, his last name was Solitaris or something like that. And they called him Sal, but they couldn't remember his whole name. And he was a Chicago cop, and they just called him Sal the Copper, became the assistant football coach at McGuire University. Anyway, they went all the way down the line. They listed their record. The football record was, I think, 6-4, basketball 15-10. And they kept it pretty low key. They didn't want to get caught in the radar. They submitted their application along with the check, and lo and behold, they were accepted, and they became an official school.
So yes, for those like tracking at home right now, it was a bunch of guys and girls at a bar that just applied to be an NCAA school, and it worked.
And it worked.
But when you filled out the record and you filled out all these positions, they didn't once be like, "Hey, who'd you play?"
I think they made up false records. They made up false players. They got calls at the bar to schedule games, and that's another part of the story that
that's a good part.
They would call the bar and say, "Hey, is Coach Shea there? We'd like to schedule a game with him." And one of the coaches they did was from Air Force Academy, and John McGuire told him, "Well, Coach Shea only comes in on Friday nights, and you reach me after 11 o'clock. And the guy said, "What? How do I get that job?" No, but he was sort of miffed that they kept those hours, and ultimately, they had it going for a couple of years, and that allotted them tickets. I think they got about 100 tickets to the games, and also a block of hotel rooms for their students and staffs to stay at.
And that was the motivation, right? You guys were just looking for some free tickets to the Final Four, so you're like, hey, what's the best way to get free tickets is to be a fake university that is issue tickets, right?
Right, because back in those days, the venues weren't that big. They weren't playing in the Superdome or the Metrodome or anything like that. There was much smaller arenas, so tickets were tight even back then.
Do you know how many tickets they gave you?
I think it was 100. I'm pretty sure the NCAA issued them 100 tickets.
Doesn't that sound crazy? They gave every school 100 tickets? That seems like that would be...
Well, I think it went by size. They were a smaller...
Just remember the bike,
a smaller Division I. That's crazy, too. It was a Division I designation.
Isn't that right? That seems like a lot of tickets for like each school. So it's almost like it was all...
Yeah, from all member schools, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I was stunned by that when I was reading about the story. So when you guys, and initially you sent this out, you thought there's no way that it would be sent back and approved. Was it a phone call that they approved it by, or was it just a letter? Do you remember how they found out?
I believe they received a letter, or the first notification they had of it was that the check was cashed. They got the cash check back.
Do you remember how much it was by chance?
That I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first indication. Then it was followed up, I believe, with a letter, and then, of course, it was printed in the official NCAA book of colleges, which they call the Blue Book. So there's an entry for McGuire University listing all the things I was mentioning before: athletic director, president, coaches, and populate the number of kids in the school and all of that.
But at this point, aren't you kind of at of the thought that, all right, this is cool, we're in a program, it's misprinted, we're never going to get these tickets? Was that like the big stunner where it's like, oh my God, they really think we're a real university, is when they finally sent the tickets? Like, or was it real when you saw the program and your school was in there?
I think it was when they printed the book. Is when
when they found out they were in the blue book.
And that was 60, or was this early 70s?
It would have been early 70s.
Early 70s.
Yes,
So
73, I think.
So it's just people drinking at a bar from, the 60s, and then 73, you guys pull this prank. So then how many years did it go on that the NCAA thought McGuire University was a real school?
It lasted about 2 years.
2 years.
Chicago Today sports writer Bill Joust wrote a story about the university that didn't exist. He thought it was just too good to hold into himself and to a small group of people, so he wrote the article. It was later picked up by Sports Illustrated, and they wrote an article about it around 70, 75, 76. But anyway, the NCAA got a hold of it and immediately revoked our membership from their organization. And
they were thoroughly embarrassed that they got exposed.
Oh, were they? Was it? Did they try to bring litigation or anything like that, or they were just like, let's just try to make this go away?
They did. Go ahead, Pete. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think they would have brought litigation. I mean, back then, I think they just wanted McGuire to go away.
They did. I believe they sent a cease and desist letter to stop using, them representing as an NCAA university. And also, they wrote a retraction in the next edition of their book that they had made a mistake.
We apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry. So McGuire University is officially a recognized Division I program for 2 years until the lid gets blown off it by the Tribune. You said it was.
It was the Chicago Today, I think.
Chicago Today.
That was part of the Tribune Enterprises, I believe.
So now, was this a story that they followed up on because they heard about it, or did someone in the group tell them about it? Were you guys working with them on this story, or were you guys disappointed when it got reported on because the jig was up?
I think Joust, he was a sports writer for the paper. Mm-hmm. Chicago Today back then was it wasn't as big as the Tribune, but it was one of the four major Chicago newspapers at the time. They had the Chicago Today before that had been called the Chicago American. They had the Tribune, the Sun-Times, and the Daily News. So it was a big publication. And I don't think anybody from the university had anything to do with Joust writing the article. He just and it was a fairly big publication, like I say, and he wrote it, and McGuire suffered the consequences. But he thought it was funny.
Dan, I think in the long run, Dan, I think by Joust exposing it, it got us even more publicity.
Without a doubt.
It really took off after that. So we did, and you and I got involved in 1980.
Yeah.
And, but again, by that point, I mean, there was 60, 70 guys going on the trips. And what year was it, Dan? We went to New Orleans, and ESPN, Eddie, had a crew follow us around. They met us at O'Hare when we were boarding the flight. And then they met us at the airport in New Orleans, and they did a feature on Lenny Tyrrell, who was the chancellor then, and we were staying at the Maison Deploy down in New Orleans, and they sent a film crew up to Len's room, to interview him, give the background of McGuire. So I think it just really fed upon itself once Joust exposed it.
I love how it's still talked about. This guy was the chancellor, the athletic director. The names are still held and regarded as if it were real. That's so awesome. It was
and Eddie, Len Tyrrell, just a wonderful, wonderful man. Again, the football coach at Fenwick for years, and didn't get married until later in life. So when Lenny was doing this, he was single and hanging around McGuire at the bar a lot. And, the coaches just all gravitated to Len. And again, Len would put the whole trip together for us, Eddie. He would make sure the airfare, the hotel, the transportation, the hospitality suite. And Len would never stay in a hotel that wouldn't let us bring our own liquor in. We one year I roomed with him in Denver, and Lenny never drove, so he always had somebody go, and usually it was Bobby Nevers. So Nevers and Len would go out a day early, make sure the hospitality room was all fully stocked, and but if a hotel is going to charge you an arm and a leg to buy all the liquor from them, so as long as the hotel was flexible to let us bring our own liquor in, then Lenny would make the arrangements. And again, we never stayed in the Ritz or anything, but it was affordable. Most of us were just working stiffs and trying to keep the cost down to be able to afford to go on a Final Five trip.
Well, yeah, that's what's cool is that this turned into a big trip even after you guys lost your sum of tickets that the NCAA would give you guys, so you guys would just continue to go every year. But to go back for 1 second, do you remember, Pete, were people mad when they blew the lid off of it? Like, was people mad when that newspaper article came out?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think that was pre-Dan and I getting involved.
Yeah.
And we didn't start going until 1980. They got in the Blue Book in 73. Jouse's article, I think, was in 75. So it was really, we were still in college at the time. So we really weren't involved in McGuire then.
Mm-hmm. So, and then it effectively just turned into like a club, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. So it's a club, and then even after you lose your tickets, like I said, you still go to these Final Fours, and then so it's still running today, right? You guys still have a group of people that started at McGuire University that still go to the Final Four.
So they still have a group go, and it's a fairly large group.
Yeah.
That Art Duffy, who runs it now, he combined with a group of fellows from New York who went every year. Did some of the very similar same things that we did. His girlfriend's brother was in that group, and so they combined sort of over the years, and a lot of those guys go. My estimation, it's probably 50-50 Chicago, New York now.
Oh wow.
So. But they're still going, and I mean, the guys from New York think they're from Chicago when they start talking about McGuire University. So, like they've been there since the beginning.
Yeah,
but,
that's funny. Was there ever any ever bad blood with anyone over the prank?
No, the reports I heard that when you think about it from its inception. They were a fun-loving group of guys. I mean, and so when it happened, it happened. It just when Joust wrote the story, no hard feelings. Just it just was something that was funny. It was and it sort of passed on over. And I don't think anybody of McGuire, the NCAA was definitely pissed off, but nobody from McGuire really was bothered by it. I don't think.
There was no okay.
And even back then, Eddie, I mean, a lot of the guys that went with us were all high school coaches, and they got tickets. You could get registered, Dan. Remember Jack Fitz and some of those guys? I mean, they were registered as coaches, so they would always get 2 tickets. So if you wanted to go to the games, you could get a ticket to go to the game. I remember, Danny, remember the one year when we were in Indianapolis, when Villanova played in Lexington with the big upset of Georgetown. And I don't think you went, Dan, but I think it was 2 of the Doyle brothers and myself, another guy. So we see a guy selling tickets outside the stadium. And back then, I think it was $100. And the guy's like, I guarantee you guys are going to be right at midcourt. We're like, really? We didn't know where the hell we were going to be sitting. We didn't have a diagram of the stadium. So we took a chance, and we get in. Sure enough, Eddie, we were right at midcourt, like he promised. We were in the very last row of the arena. so, I mean, he didn't. I said we sat down. And we're like, well, the guy didn't lie to us. We're at midcourt.
But they used to have something back then, the National Basketball Coaches Association, where you could go down and sign up and become a member, and that's what Pete's referring to. So on the day of the Saturday of the game, you could get in line to try and get tickets that weren't picked up by other coaches. So once you joined the association, I think it was like $100. They
Yeah,
gave you a couple cheap coffee mugs and a pair of socks and things like that. But you remember, you entitled you to get in that line every year to get tickets that weren't called for. And eventually, it was all you made your way up the list to where you could. And the guys, I know there are still guys that are going now that joined way back then in the early '80s.
Oh, wow.
Who get tickets every year, and I don't know, they don't go to the tournament anymore, but they sell them, and so
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Was there ever? So you guys came in 80-ish. You said, was there ever any desire to pull another prank on the NCAA, or was it like, nah, we were okay?
Yeah, I don't recall anybody ever trying to become. I think it became so big by them, Eddie. By then, it wasn't going to happen. I'm sure the NCAA learned their lesson. They were going to do a background check on anybody trying to pull that scam again.
and do their due diligence.
Well, I'll tell you what. It feels like it's ripe for a pranking again because the NCAA has no control anymore. So,
Exactly.
right?
That's true. Very true.
So I don't think you could shock them with anything. That office is probably a fury of chaos with the way things are nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like I would say when I told someone I was having you guys in, someone reminds me, were you guys familiar with what happened with that fake school that played Bishop Sycamore? Did you guys hear about that story?
No.
So there was a high school that registered as a legitimate high school, and they were playing all these, there's these pro programs now like IMG and Bishop Gorman, and they play on ESPN, and they were going out, they were playing these teams, they were losing like 70-0. They found out it was a fake high school. So
No.
yeah. So that's the recent comp I could kind of bring, but that was a little more. This was all in good fun. That was a little more messed up, I would say.
Yeah, big time.
And then how did the Final Five is what you guys call your whole crew that goes to the Final Four, obviously being the fifth team.
Right.
Do you remember how that, or how the saying, I have your hat here, we play hurt? Did you ever hear any lore about how those guys came up with that or anything of that nature?
Well, there's some lore that it was attributed to Al McGuire from Marquette. That some sports reporter was asking if there's any connection between he and McGuire University. And of course, their names are spelled differently, but and he said, no, those guys are tougher than my guys. They play hurt. And what he was referring to, he had been, I believe anyway, and Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but the hospitality suite, of course, was stacked with all the beer and liquor you could ever imagine drinking. And I think he was referring to the hangovers and getting back up the next day and starting all over again. So Lenny only had two rules, and one was that if you take a beer or drink, finish it. And the second one was to last person out, turn off the lights and lock the door. I can guarantee the lights never went out and the door was never locked.
That's awesome. Hey guys, let's take a break to talk about No Bull. This episode is brought to you by No Bull. No Bull is a footwear brand built for training. It's a brand for anyone who strives to be better every day. No Bull celebrates a no bullshit approach to wellness. It's about being a work in progress and embracing the constant evolution to being better. The job is never done, and with options across training and lifestyle, No Bull has options for everyone. Listen, honestly, they're great. They gave me a couple pairs. I've been really enjoying them. It's kind of been like we've had weird weather, up and down, nice weather, snowy, rainy weather, and No Bull hasn't let me down yet. So go check them out exclusively. For Dog Walk listeners, No Bull is offering 35% off your first order. Visit nobullproject.com. Use code DOGWALK for 35% off your entire first order. That's nobullproject.com. Use code DOGWALK for 35% off. Go check out No Bull, guys. You will not be disappointed, especially once the weather turns. You want to buy a new pair of shoes. So go check out No Bull. Give them a shot. Also, guys, ChevyDriveChicago.com. We're starting this new year off right. Listen, Chevy Drive Chicago wants to give you a chance to win a car car that you want. That's right. You get to pick which car you want to win. You pick it, you win it, you drive it. So many great cars to pick from in the Chevy lineup. There's one that's perfect for you and what you need. If you need a truck you can depend on, pick the Silverado. If you're ready to go EV, the Equinox EV is perfect for you. If you want an SUV, the Blazer or the Equinox is what you need. And I did not stutter when I read that copy. We're giving away a Chevy. So go on to ChevyDriveChicago.com to enter to win. You'll see it. It's like has rotating banners on the site, but literally all you do is click the pick it, win it, drive it picture. You fill out a few question forms, and you jump right in. It takes less than 5 minutes, and you could win a new car. So go do it. Entering is easy at ChevyDriveChicago.com to enter to win. In the meantime, go shop it, pick at your local dealer today. The official partner of the Chicago Bears, ChevyDriveChicago.com. Who was, do you remember the biggest school that called the bar asking to schedule you guys? Or do you remember? You just said Air Force?
Air Force is the biggest one I heard.
Yeah, I would think Air Force.
And they were in, the bartender was just instructed to be like, yeah, sorry, he's only here Friday night.
And that was John McGuire, the sports information director, owner of the bar.
That's awesome.
But Eddie, go back to the "We Play Hurt" motto for us, and we had one of our students down in New Orleans one year, and got going fairly early on a Saturday, and had to do something to fix the hangover from Friday night, so got going relatively early Saturday, and continued to go and go and go, and he wakes his roommate up Sunday morning, and says, "Hey, I think I'm having a heart attack. Can you get me down to the hospital?" And his roommate's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He goes, "I say, you sure you're not just hungover?" No, I got to get to the hospital. So get in a cab, go to the hospital, and nurse starts interrogating the student. They're like, "Oh, can you fill me in a little bit about what you had to drink yesterday?" "Well, I think I started with some screwdrivers. And, probably had a couple of beers during the day watching the games. I had some wine at dinner and maybe a couple of shots along the way and, a couple other things." And nurse looks at him and it's like, "Sir, are you sure this isn't just a hangover?" "No, lady, I've had plenty of those. This is different." So they bring in the doctor, flush them all out with IVs and everything. And, turned out to be fine. But again, another lad that played hurt took one for the McGuire University team.
Had to go to the hospital. He came back though, marching strong. So
picked right up where he left off.
Yeah. So going back to the hospitality suite, what's the background? Obviously, I know Coach K is a Chicago guy, but what's the background of him going up there? And is there any story from that?
Well, again, because he went to Weber High School, on the west side of Chicago. So Mike knew most of the coaches, but in particular George Ireland from Loyola, and there was a number of other coaches. Bill Gleason, who was up at Loyola.
Ray Meyer and Meyer.
Yeah. So again, Kay wanted to stay in close contact with these coaches because you never knew when somebody was going to come along your way. And Jack Fitzgerald, a good friend of ours and a McGuire guy, Fitz was coaching Leo for a number of years, and then he went over to Richards, where he coached Dwayne Wade.
Oh,
and Fitz, Dwayne Wade to this day calls Fitz his second dad.
Oh, wow.
And when Wade went to Miami, part of his contract was that Fitz got a job as a scout for the Heat, and to this day, Fitz is still working as a scout. Does mostly the Midwest, the Big Ten, Notre Dame. Because Wade wanted to take care of Fitz for everything he did for him, his career at Richards. So, kind of a neat story. But again, the college coaches wanted to stay in friendly with a guy like Jack Fitzgerald because he had a ton of contacts, and kids loved him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
So was it when Kay got up, do you remember what year-ish this was when he was up there?
I think in 2010, I think it's when they made him gave him an honorary degree from McGuire University and welcomed him into the crew.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome. But he had already won national championship, I
Yes.
assume, at that point,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. But Digger he would come by all the time. He actually spent, I remember in New Orleans, Dan, I'm sure you were with me and Lenny, and we sat in a bar
Oh, yeah.
for a good 3, 4 hours with Digger, just listening to him telling stories. And
Yeah.
then Lenny would always have mass up in his suite on Sunday mornings for anybody that could make it. And I remember in New Orleans, after we'd been out and about, we did our best to make it up to Len's suite for mass, and Digger was there,
Right.
and he wound up giving Lenny his 2 tickets for Monday night, which he promptly turned over to me, and I took his son, Lenny, who he had brought that time. Little Lenny was probably what, Dan, 13, 14.
Yeah.
So I take him to the game, and it was the Chris Webber brain cramp game. So, I've got little Lenny with me. We got great seats from Digger. And at the end of the game, of course, Eddie, I've been known to put down $1 or 2 on some square pools. So we get done with the game, and sure enough, Weber calls the timeout. I wound up hitting a square pool for $4,000, and we're walking out. And I said to little Len, I said, Lenny, pick out a shirt, program, a hat, whatever you want. And he goes, "You sure, Mr. Brown?" I'm like, "Whatever you want." I just, hit a square pool, didn't tell him how much. So a week or so later, and I still got the letter. He sends me a letter, and he says, "Dear Mr. Brown, thank you so much for taking me to the game, getting me the hat, the shirt, the program." He goes, "I always knew you were one of my dad's good friends." He goes, "I had no idea you're one of my dad's rich friends." Signs the letter. I still have the letter to this day.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And then Ray Meyer, was he a frequenter, or was that just kind of a one-time thing?
No, he came. He came every so often. He was pretty regular. I mean, a couple of times I remember him coming with his son, with Joey, and up there too.
Yeah, Coach Ray he was a good man.
Yeah.
He did. Dan knows I'm involved at a charity in the Chicago area, Mulliganeers. Our motto is giving kids a second chance. We help families that have kids that are sick or a parent that's fallen on hard times. We help the kids out. But Ray would come to our St. Pat's party at the operating engineer hall every single year. Randy Ramsey, one of his players, would pick Coach up and bring Coach to the dinner. And I mean, it was like you had such a major celebrity come to the Mulliganeers party. Everybody would flock to Coach, get pictures taken with them, autographs. He was just such a wonderful man.
I think he went to Pat's too, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think he was.
Right, and then he went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I do remember that. That's one of those things too. Now that DePaul had for how it's been in the 21st century, they had a decent year this year, won some big East games, and I don't think people my generation realize like DePaul was a big deal back then.
Oh yeah, big time.
79, 78, that era.
Yeah.
Really big.
Yeah, because it's kind of wild talking, because my dad went there too, and he's 68 or something like that, and he still follows them and everything. But I don't know. I'd be interested to see how the city would react if DePaul kind of had a comeback.
It'd be nice. I mean, they rallied around Loyola a couple of years ago, so I think they would. So
no, for sure.
Another guy we had come by visit was Jimmy Valvano back in the year they won the championship down in Albuquerque. He came over to our suite and spent. They had the upset in the afternoon. He came over to the suite, and I can remember him dancing on the floor in the hospitality suite. And he and Lenny actually became very good buddies. And when Jimmy became ill, I know Lenny started a fund from the McGuire guys who contribute to send on to his the foundation, and I don't know if they still do that or not, but we did for years. Because he was he was so much fun. He stayed for a couple hours and just had a good time.
That's awesome. No, it's such a cool, funny story, and what it's kind of turned into, it's like that's some longevity for McGuire University, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going on 63 years.
This year.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's just a big busload of people just going to go to Indianapolis, huh?
Yeah, they're going to have a big group. But I'll tell you, Barstool Eddie, that you never met finer people over the years. I mean, we became friends, guys from the south side, north side, guys from New York. We had a couple of guys come from way up in northern Michigan, a couple of doctors who smoked, chain smoked, and you never see that in Chicago. But I mean, guys from all over the country, just a lot of fun. A lot of those guys from Father Perez down on the south side, with Fitz and Tommy O'Malley.
Tommy O'Malley.
The Tansy brothers and Howie and Howie Kenny and those guys, all good guys.
That was the thing, Eddie. That was the cool thing about McGuire was you had people from all walks of life. You had lawyers, you had judges, you had firemen, policemen, stockbrokers. When you were on that trip, though, everybody, you checked your ego at the door. I mean, they'd have not crap games, they'd have poker games going all night long. And one night, Dan and I, a couple of the other lads, we got going in a poker game in Philly, Danny.
Yeah.
And you and I were rooming together, and we wound up playing cards, Eddie, till like 9, 10 in the morning. Lenny had given us his tickets for Saturday. Dan and I wake up. I mean, it was halftime of the second game. Isaiah Thomas out in Philly. We're like, oh shit! I guess we blew that going to these games. But that was the year also where President Reagan was shot.
Right.
They contemplated canceling the Monday game because depending on the condition of Reagan. But obviously they wound up going ahead with the game. But there was some craziness in Philadelphia that year.
Yeah. No, was there a strict admissions policy? How did you decide to make someone officially a member, or if they just signed up for the trip, they were kind of in?
I think back then when we joined, it was just sort of you signed up, you're in.
As long as your check cleared.
Yeah,
that was it.
That was it.
What was the entry fee?
You had whatever the price of the cost of the trip was.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, there was no extra. There was no extra. But everybody knew everybody. I mean, everybody came with somebody. I don't know if I knew of anybody that came and just showed up and wanted to be in. There were introductions, from somebody throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there were,
and then it grew. Lenny just kept building on it every year, Eddie, to the point where he came out with a Hall of Fame, and it would be a big deal on Sunday night. There was always a floor show, if you will, with entertainment. But then Lenny decided to make a Hall of Fame. Dan and I were both lucky enough to get in. Danny was inducted in '94 in Charlotte. I got in St. Petersburg in '99. But there'd be a big presentation. Everybody'd get their ring, and you'd have a guy introduce you. And I mean, it was a huge deal at the time.
Yeah.
So Lenny just kept trying to make it better and as much fun as he could for everybody just to have a good time. For 5 days. Come, if you go to the game, enjoy them, great. If not, we'll all be here in the hospitality suite and entertain each other. But the floor show on Sunday night, Eddie, was priceless.
Yeah.
The talent show.
Talent show, yeah.
There were. I think there's one story I with one of our guys was a great Irish ballad singer, and he would really get into singing these songs, and as he was getting into the very serious and verses, he'd close his eyes and he'd be looking up at the sky with his eyes closed. Well, one year we all left the room while he was singing, and when we were looking in the door, and when he comes down and to look at the crowd, and the crowd is gone, and he looks at us outside the door, and of course he had a few choice words for us all, but it was so funny to see his face when there was nobody left there. But the shows there were hilarious.
That's awesome.
Danny, how about the Hester McLaughlin talent show?
Oh God,
Eddie, there was two guys. Pete Hester was a football coach at Curie High School, and Bill McLaughlin was a builder up in the northern suburbs. Big Bill the Builder.
Yeah.
So these two clowns, they decide they're going to go fishing one year, and they get a little prop plane, and McLaughlin had to be 350 if he was 100 pounds. Hester was Pete was at least 250 to 300. So Eddie, these two guys, they get in this little prop plane, getting ready to go fishing up in someplace, Wisconsin, whatever. They got the thing loaded with beer and food, and so the two of them, they would tell the story, and they'd be getting ready in the plane. is taking off, and they're sitting in the plane. We're going fishing. We're going fishing, and then the damn plane could barely even get off the ground. These badasses were so big and had so much shit on that plane.
They described it as if you were going like down Western Avenue.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
going from
yeah.
103rd Street down Western Avenue, and you get to 99th, and you're trying to get up, and the guy's trying to get the plane up, and just bouncing, and then you get to 87th Street, he almost gets off, and then at the end, they get to 63rd Street, and the plane never gets off the ground, and they look at each other. I guess we're not going fishing. After they're singing the songs or the whole thing. There are some other stories that were very funny too that Hester would tell.
That's awesome. And if you're not watching YouTube, if you're just listening, Danny just gave me his Hall of Fame class ring. So this is awesome. It's the lengths that you guys went to, not just make this a social club, but just to make it a little unique and interesting are really funny. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So
Yeah. And it was a great honor, Eddie, at the time, to get inducted in the McGuire Hall of Fame. It was a big deal. Lenny didn't pick just anybody to get in the thing. It wasn't like 10 people were getting inducted a year. It was one, maybe two, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Talk about Hall of Fames. I'd be remiss if I didn't. My good friend here, Pete, is being inducted in the Chicago Catholic Hall of Fame.
Oh, no.
At the end of April in the next month. So
What sport?
Baseball and basketball.
He was a multi-sport player, and he was excellent at all of them. I can vouch for that. And he's not mentioning that, but joining his dad, Roger Brown, his grandfather, Warren Brown, who was a sports writer. I think it was for the American, Pete.
Yeah.
And in the Hall of Fame, and then many other McGuire guys. Lenny Tyrrell, Bill Shea, Bobby Nevers, Jack Fitzgerald, Tommy O'Malley. Just a ton of guys from McGuire are also in the Catholic League Hall of Fame. So
That's
I
awesome.
just had I couldn't sit in the show and not.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, hey, we love to talk Catholic League on this podcast too. So that's more than welcome.
And we're very proud of him. Very proud.
Yeah, Addie, my grandfather, Warren Brown, as Dan knows, was inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown in the sports writers wing. And the year Grandpa got inducted, Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford were inducted in the Hall of Fame. So it's a great honor to be part of the legacy of the Catholic League Hall of Fame and follow my grandfather and my dad into it.
Oh, what a class that is, Mickey Mantle. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then McGuire's Pub no longer exists there on Madison Street. It turned into, later on, I knew it as Doc Ryan's, which is no longer there. But was there any, was that like a big loss, or you guys, I saw, moved your operations to Kelly's Pub, which is a great place in Lincoln Park as well?
McGuire's, it was a loss, but John Kelly filled the void. My first memory of those guys coming was in 1987 down in New Orleans. He brought a group of bar owners from the Lincoln Park area. John, there was a guy, John Rockowitz, Big John. I think he owned a bar called Little John's, and Lyle Salmon and Jimmy Keebach, and he brought a whole group of them. And then things shifted over to Kelly's bar, and sometimes the other guys' bars. But they were a funny group, and they were a great addition to McGuire University. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time we saw them walking down the street from the hotel, and from the Maison, we're going to Bourbon Street, and we came to an alley, and here's these 7 guys with quarts of beer, with wrapped in brown paper bags, drinking in the corner like they were back in Chicago. And I started talking with them, and they were just they were a funny group. Funny story about Keebach. Keebach had a glass eye.
Oh yeah,
and he'd get all liquored up, and at the end of the night he'd be sitting in a bar. He'd leave the room, the suite room, and go to a bar, and he'd try to sweet talk some young lady or old lady or whatever, and eventually he would turn away and take his glass eye and put it in his drink. He drank vodka and turn around and say, "Here's looking at you."
That's great. And what was your guys' favorite host city? I assume New Orleans is high up there, right?
I would say so. It was good.
Yeah, but it was, as you know, Eddie, there's some pretty seedy parts of New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
So you had to make sure you traveled in bunches down there. Our hotel was right on Bourbon Street, so nobody really strayed too far. but there were some nasty areas in New Orleans if you wanted to find trouble.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I mean, Dallas was a good city, Philly was a good city. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
it's been in Indy several times. That's always
yeah,
been fun too.
yeah. I
Are you
remember one
guys?
night we were in Indy and we went to that St. Elmo's
Oh
Steakhouse.
yeah.
And we were walking down the street to the game, and sure enough, we ran into to John Wooden, to Coach Wooden and his wife. So we were kind of just casually talking to him as we're walking towards the stadium, and I mean that was a great honor meeting him.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming in, guys. This is awesome. I mean, just a funny prank turns into, you know, lifelong friends and years of cool trips. So
Yeah,
it's an awesome thing you guys got. So it was great to have you guys in and hear about it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. When I get back in town, Eddie, we'll have to get together.
Yeah, for sure. Is there like a yearly meeting at Kelly's or something? Do you guys do that too, or is that kind of
they I don't know if they did it this year, but they have traditionally held a meeting there.
Oh, nice.
At but like I said, now so many of the guys are from New York. The numbers
Yeah.
are way down. But
Numbers are
John's still alive, Danny?
no, John passed away a few years ago. Polly, his wife, is still alive. She used to come on the
Polly's
trip
still alive?
too.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Polly's still alive, but John passed away.
Polly's a sweetheart.
Yeah, but thanks for having us, Eddie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for doing it.
Eddie, thanks so much.
Yeah, and if people want to check it out or go on the trip or something, is there a website or something they can
Yeah,
go check this out?
There is a website,
Yeah.
and I think it's just called McGuireUniversity.com.
Yeah,
McGuireUniversity.com.
I
Yes,
think that's
you're
what
right.
it is. And
You're right.
there is a website if they want to go. I don't know if they're filled up for this year or not.
I would imagine by now they are. Yeah,
Yeah, because they're close. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're still very welcoming, and they love to have new people all the time.
And the hospitality suite still kicking? It's still going?
It's changed a little bit, but yeah, it's still going. when Lenny ran it, it was 24 hours. That's why I said last guy's out, turn off the lights and close the door, lock the door. But now there's a time limit. It closes at midnight, and
guys have grown up, Dan, right?
yeah. Closes at midnight. It doesn't open till like 2 p.m. or something like that. And but it's still going.
A little different.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Pete, Danny. Really appreciate
Yeah.
you guys. And
you, Eddie.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie.
Go check out
Appreciate
McGuireUniversity.com and fun time. That's it, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next Tuesday. We'll see you then.